call me Dr. Berry, so I kind of like that name. I'm an associate professor at UPB in Medellin, Colombia, and I'm instructor of record for the course called Methods and Approaches in the Teaching of Languages. And I'm talking to you as part of the course Capstone project. So we always have at the end of the course, students make a multimodal video to talk about different issues in education. This semester it's a very different event. We still have the Capstone project, but what happened was as a result of the situation with the pandemic, students came together and they said, we want to make this project as one, as a collective project. And I agreed because this is not a normal situation, and I was really impressed with the way students reacted to this. So what you're going to watch today is an entirely made by students project. All I did was giving some guidance and some ideas and some suggestions, but the end result you're going to watch today, it's the students' work. So the video, it's conceived as a way for students who are becoming teachers or Preservice teachers to think about the switches, this change when we went from being all the time on campus to now teaching remotely, teaching virtually. And the video will have 3 sections. In the first section, you're going to have some testimonials with the students where they'll talk about their experience living the transition and what the transition meant for them. Then we're going to have a part where students will talk about some conceptual considerations that teachers should have as they make the move to remote, online, and virtual teaching for semesters and probably the near future. And then the last part of the video will feature students' voices talking about some of the practical considerations that you should keep in mind. Behind this, and it's important to point it out, behind this there is all the hours that students put together, but also there is a lot of reading, there is a lot of research. All the thoughts that the students are making in this video are based on sound research and in conversations with experts in the field, both in Colombia and from around the world. This will probably be the last you hear from me. Maybe at the end I'll come up and say something again, but the video is the students' work. This is a tribute to their work, to their inspiration, and to the kinds of teachers that are going to be leading the profession in years to come here in Colombia and around the world. So just sit back, get some popcorn, grab a drink, get some coffee, and enjoy the rest of this Capstone project video from the MATLUPB students. I'm very proud of the work they did, and I'm just happy to also join you in sitting down and having my popcorn and having my coffee while we all learn from these wonderful
Being quarantined for a long time has been something difficult. We are used to having a different rhythm in our lives, and now we are at home with a different routine. There are many things that I miss a lot, like go to the college and interact with my classmates and teachers. It makes me feel anxious that everything will end and return to normal. We don't know when this pandemic will end, so it is necessary to spend time on things to do, like study or read, start new projects, learn new things, and have purposes. All this to avoid problems such as anxiety, depression, and desolation of not being able to leave home. It is important to reflect and think about the positive things. We are safe. My partner Emmanuel mentions that the quarantine brings many problems with it. Samantha Brook and her research team staged on a study about the consequences of its psychological effects that isolation can cause. Fear, insomnia, anger, depression, stress are some of the symptoms people can experience in quarantine. Social media can help to keep in touch with people, but it can fully replace human interaction. Now add to that the worries about the financial situation, the thought of getting infected, and for students, the added stress of classes and assignments. Teachers and students are losing their minds over online classes. We all know that everyone is doing the best they can in this situation, but we have to recognize that some teachers just online from everything and just gave students lots of work. We talk to other students and well, we are all freaked out. The most common thoughts about all this situation are general burnout, people are glued to their computers, college tuition is too expensive just for virtual classes, and too much work and it is not giving the best results because of lack of organization.
This has been challenging times, but we have to adapt our routines and lifestyle. For us as students, we feel very grateful for all the measures that our university has taken and all the effort that teachers have put in. It hasn't been an easy task for teachers to adapt new methodologies and transform how they teach. Among these aspects, I want to highlight several things. The way each of them has prepared their classes with supporting materials that have facilitated learning through media. The spaces they offer us to solve doubts and make this experience more bearable. The words of support they have given us all this time, because teachers have become in our guide to learn from this situation.
On the side of the university, they have offered resources thinking about the well-being of us in order that we can face the virtual classes in the best possible way, since many of us have presented adaptation difficulties. The resources have been 24-hour online attention from the library to support the preparation for final exams. And with the program Cuenta con nosotros para cuidarte, they are offering free psychosocial care, physical activities, art workshops, and workshops to strengthen university life through the Microsoft Teams platform. I just want to thank for all the effort that the university and the professors have made, because they have tried to change and create new alternatives that have given us another perspective on teaching. This has helped us to understand that education has no limits.
I just want to thank you for all the effort the university and professors have made, because they have tried to change and create new alternatives that have given us another perspective on teaching. This situation helped us to understand that education has no limits.
My experience has not been bad, but it was not the excellent either, because although we are all new to this, I find it necessary to provide training on online courses, mostly for the older teachers who have been teaching their course based on the board of their life and have not tried other resources for their students. I have noticed that most of my teachers have made their best effort to give us a quality class, as if we're in the classroom. They lend themselves to be contacted in case there are doubts with assignments or problems with connectivity. The rest of them have only been contacted by email to give instruction for assignments, disappear and reappear to give other types of work. I like to see that my teachers are still concerned about the learning we have. They just wouldn't have been considered with the situation and the time given is acceptable. I also consider that the practice phases are so important for something. We have to know and experience this type of classes because there are very few of them able to, and the virtuality does not allow it. The interaction with the teacher is limited and the explanation as well. I can say on my part that virtuality is something bittersweet. For some, it is a salvation because they can afford to travel, because they can find material online or work and study at the same time, and they don't have the full time to be present. But for some other factor, it is something more difficult because the internet is not a basic need and for some people it is difficult to access.
When all these crises started, the psychological processes of Bienestar Universitario also stopped. So it was very pleasant to see how the professionals communicate with you to ask if you want to continue in a virtual way, by phone or video call, thus achieving that these processes will continue helping to more people and thinking more about a student's mental health than money, providing understanding regarding payment. They have also been in communication through emails, providing invitation to get in their supportive workshops and talks to liven up the time of confinement, which seems to me to be very helpful in calming many people and manage this situation that affects us in a correct way. For this, I feel that in that sense, the university have supported and care about us.
Virtual classes, teachers and connectivity at this time have been crucial topics to demonstrate the quality of education we find ourselves within. First of all, we have teachers who have tried as much as the students to have a pleasant environment to give and receive virtual classes. The majority of teachers have done the impossible to achieve virtuality and adapt classes that were already planned for a physical environment. The truth is that for a situation like this, nobody was really prepared. Having said that, it is important to emphasize that I have had several dislikes with some teachers' approaches to classes, because they seem to confuse what it is to teach and what it is to assign assignments endlessly. I understand the importance of homework, but some teachers have dedicated themselves to double or even triple the amount of tasks. It's truly insane. I insist, I have had good experiences with various classes and methods from different teachers. But I think it is out of the question that some are not even considering the intensity of the work they are assigning. The connection for both parts has not been easy. First of all, there are students who have had to continually struggle to connect to the virtual classes, all aimed at establishing an education for which they are waiting, quality education. As a consequence of the pandemic, we have been able to observe the different roles that each of those who are involved in education have taken. We have the students who have been complaining with the regulations, but leaving the responsibility aside. All because of the virtual modality that prevents the actions of the person receiving the class from being seen. Therefore, the situation becomes ambiguous for both parts. Students decide if pay attention or not to the virtual classes. Secondly, we have the teachers. They have been delving continuously to provide a quality of education, but the vast majority have limited themselves to giving an unprofessional response to teaching, avoiding teaching and giving just homework to do.
A good way to promote the virtual participation can be having into account the concept of constructive feedback. Feedback can be defined as information regarding the student's performance that it is provided with the intention to improve their learning. But what is constructive feedback? In education, it is when through the observation, teacher can provide a meaningful judgment to help students in improving their performance. For that reason, it is important that teachers use constructive feedback in virtual lessons because it can motivate virtual participation. The best way of achieving a good feedback is: first, be specific. Try not to miss any information and not generalize your ideas. Second, suggest plans for improvement. You can provide options for improvement in future tasks. You can use examples and mention some resources that can help the students in making better works. Third, give time to students. Pupils can also have the opportunity to react and make questions if they do not understand the feedback. In virtual classes, the previous recommendations are not taken into account by most teachers, so there is no constructive feedback and students will probably continue doing the same mistakes. Some teachers just make a general feedback. They just give a quantitative grade, and before the students make any comments, teachers prefer to give them an opportunity to present again their work, even when it was not previously explained by them. So I consider these recommendations as essential to improve virtual classes in both students and teachers if we want to make virtual lessons as a suitable way to learn.
So, before we start to talk about lack of experience in teacher and students in virtual environment, first we have to define the concept of online education or virtual education. So, this one can be defined as an approach to teaching and learning that uses internet technologies to communicate and collaborate in an educational context. In addition, there are different technologies applications to support the online learning. First, we have asynchronous communication tools, and second, we have synchronous technologies. The former, teachers and students can access and participate at any time and anywhere if they have internet connection. For example, email. The latter, students must join at the same time as the teacher, but they can participate from any place. For example, desktop audio, video, technology. So basically, in this virtual environment, teachers and students can share the information in a synchronously way, which means the virtual class is becoming like a face-to-face class because they're interacting with each other, expressing their emotion, and participating in group activities. So here is the question: where the lack of experience is? What happened is that some teachers don't have the experience of using this application, or simply they don't know how to use it effectively in an online class. In other words, they think synchronous tools are not necessary to teach the required content of a course, so they just use the asynchronous tools like email to give the instruction and text to their students without explaining it face-to-face. Consequently, that affects the students' learning process because some of them don't have access to a computer, even an internet connection to see it. So they get lost because they don't know what they have to do and when the teacher could explain it to him. For that, teachers should be prepared and motivated to use correctly asynchronous and synchronous tools for creating an interactive context where teacher and students can achieve the goals for the semester.
Hello everyone! I'm going to explain 5 important measures in virtuality. As you know, I'm Pauline. The first one is global learning. In virtuality is focused on the possibility that students and all the persons learn new things with people around the world. For example, a new language. Next one is multimedia. Multimedia is the possibility to watch videos or conference of experts on different topics to depend and from discussions. It's really important to use multimedia in virtual classes. The next one is video. We have these tools to make a video. DVD, YouTube, the camera is most important, and Fox Video, maybe for a movie. Videos works for the both students and teacher. Example, if tomorrow I have to explain an animal topic, I can send a video with examples of animals and all the important things of animals. And the homework of the students will be to make a video with a favorite animal and all the details of this animal. Next one is podcast. Podcasts are the possibility to summarize very long texts in audios of people specialized in the subject. That through examples allows everything to be easy to understand. The next one, it's social media. Young people and teachers today use social media all the time because in social media you can write short texts of different topics and that are placed, and from there you can make a debate or a topic of conversation. Maybe in Twitter or in Instagram you can post an image with short text and explain to everyone what do you want to say. Yay! This is the end of this short video to explain the benefits of virtual classes. In conclusion, virtuality have many benefits. Among them exploring new ways of teaching and learning. It's a new thing that happened and open a possibility to be better in all the technology. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you understand all the things and that you can use it on class. Thank you.
High level of stress. Virtual classes can affect the mental health of students due to factors such as the environment that is generated in a classroom is not the same environment in a virtual class. So this makes the class lose its essence and connection between teacher and student. Also, in a classroom, the students feel more comfortable to talk with the teacher to clarify the doubts he has on the subject, and the learning is clearly done through a screen. Also, a reason of the high stress of some students is no longer accumulated of homework. Some factors are lacks of experience of teacher and students about remote and virtual teaching. So this makes students increase their stress level and possible anxiety of knowing if they are doing it well or not. For example, some Bowling Green State University students are facing added stress as they are challenged with learning the class material online rather than in person. And students can struggle with the online format as they may have an easier time learning topics with a professor that is guiding the lesson.
What is blended learning? Blended learning means integration of online learning with traditional face-to-face classroom instruction in a pedagogically manner. It is also known as a mixed or hybrid mode of learning, in which online learning replaces some aspects of face-to-face learning. Collaborating and communication are important functions of this form of learning. Through blended learning, students can learn more effectively than through traditional classroom activities. It reduces education expenses too. Blended learning involves a number of content types, such as visually enhanced presentations, video, and audio that keep the learners engaged. And natural materials is understood. It balances both types of environments and helps different types of learners to live in various ways. This method allows improved feedback from home. However, it needs benefits. Each trainer can give it to trainers in a physical environment by using information in the form of automatically generate feedback. What is virtual learning? Virtual learning is a learning experience that is enhanced through utilizing computers and the internet, both outside and inside the facilities of the educational organization. The instruction most commonly takes place in an online environment. The teaching activities are carried out online wherever the teacher and learners are physically separated in terms of place, time, or both. Virtual learning has some benefits. One of them is remote access to an unlimited array of educational services. It can be topics and authors offered worldwide. Individualized learning process that takes into consideration the personal level of competence, individual needs, and different learning styles. Safe and security learning environment, flexible learning in terms of time, location, and pace. Cost effectively, time effectively, easily scalable, and much more benefits that virtual learning can have. What is remote learning? Remote learning is something a district should be able to switch off and go based on a need. However, the efficiency of transitioning to remote learning is dependent on preparedness, technology tools, or overall student support infrastructure. Remote learning provides an opportunity for students and teachers to remain connected and engaged with the connect while working from their homes. Opportunities for remote learning are typically linked to an emergency situation that pose a threat for student safety. A good example of this it would be like the pandemic that is occurring now. So by COVID, universities should be passed to a remote environment of classroom and implement the technology and the enough tools to provide the education for all the people.
Differences between traditional education and online education. Efficient training in the virtual world requires different methods from those we use in our usual face-to-face classes. Unfortunately, with the advancement of educational methodologies, the problem of finding suitable forms of teaching has become more acute in virtual environments. The teacher prepared the training programs thinking that their only job is to digitalize the material of the classroom classes without considering if it's going to be internalized. But is it really possible that a person can learn and be motivated by reading a PDF through the static computer screen? First of all, we need to recognize that there are differences between the two methodologies, and then we must identify which ones are they, in order to understand them and promote a truly meaningful learning. First of all, we have the role of the teacher, from transmitter to motivator. In traditional face-to-face classes, the teacher is the only source of consultation, while in virtual environment, participants can enrich themselves through various sources of knowledge. ECTS facilitate the construction of collective knowledge. If we take advantage of this possibility, the role of virtual instruction changes from being a simple transmission of information to becoming a series of processes that stimulate critical thinking, therefore raising the quality of learning. Second, we have the role of the student, from passive to active. In virtual training, students have the possibility to become an autonomous and active character, since they can take the course at their own pace and contribute to the class through their participation with the knowledge they acquire in the research on the web and interactive activities. It is important to note that in online education, students tend to feel abandoned, so it is advisable to constantly design activities that allow fluid communication between students and teachers. As the third one, we have time and space, from fixed to flexible. In classroom education, there is a set place and time that must be respected for knowledge to occur. Asynchronous virtual education offers the advantage of adjusting to the schedule of the participants. It doesn't matter if for some reason a student can't get together in a regular classroom to learn. Technology makes information accessible at all times. The fourth one is material, from specific to extensive. In face-to-face education, the content are limited to verbal, non-verbal, and written communication. ECTs represent a tool to support the learning processes. The availability of sound recordings, images, videos, email, internet messaging, discussing forums, and all kinds of multimedia content are sources of innovation and creative tools that can help us as teachers to capture the attention of those we want to train. And the fifth one is teaching methods, from uniformity to multiplicity. Another difference that makes the difference is the great variety of educational tools that can use with the virtual modality. In face-to-face teaching, the participants are forced to adapt to the way in which the instructor teaches. The limitations are based on the level of creativity of the teacher, and the contents are generally static, whereas virtual education, the methodologies are extended. It is characterized by a rapid and permanent updating of the content and its rapid dissemination among the students through the electronic media. Thus, it allows greater autonomy and adaptation to the contents to the real needs of the student. We should avoid translating our method to teach face-to-face to virtual teaching. Teachers have to redesign and adapt their contents to remote learning. Here are some steps to do it. First, create a template and prepare your whole course. The content has to be dynamic, concise, and mostly practical. Revise your face-to-face content and decide which content is useful and which media can you use. Second, define a graphic line. You must keep your courses easy to navigate to catch your students' attention. Avoid using a lot of text. Use titles, subtitles, and text boxes in colors. The third one is interactivity. Use tools that promote collaboration, forums, chats, video calls, Facebook groups, and gamification to keep group dynamism, connection, and interaction. If you do not have enough time to make your own videos, you can use educative ones you find on the internet, but always keeping in mind your course planning and objectives. And the last one should be using different methods to evaluate. You can use several ways to evaluate. For example, gamification, online discussions, workshops with rubrics. The best way to measure the understanding and process of learning of our students is by practice. Include learning based in challenges and problem solutions. One of the advantages of virtual courses is that it offers you a lot of variety. You can ask your students to create podcasts, magazines, videos, games, etc.
Now we are dealing with lots of anxiety due to the remote learning modality. So now I will explain why using a planner might lessen anxiety. Keeping a daily planner can reduce anxiety because it helps to curb that feeling of panic a disorganized mind brings sometimes. Your head is definitely clearer when you write everything down. Also, keeping a planner comes with craftability, and making to-dos can keep you on track and running on a schedule. So before starting, let's face reality. Here we have some memes, but they say a lot about what students are coming through right now. This one, for example, can tell that teachers are leaving a huge amount of homework. We could say the same about this one, and it's dangerous because they're also not taking time to answer fast or to give feedback to students. Here we can infer that the students are not motivated. Now we are talking again about teachers having a lot of assignments, not taking into account that we are all having lots of classes, which means the amount of assignments increases. And here, let's focus about feelings and let's talk about mental health. And it is clearly with this means that students aren't going through good times for their mental health. Again, you might say they are just memes, but they mean a lot. And we clearly have to take our mental health seriously, mostly in tough times. So now we have some considerations for students. Here we got a planner because it will be much easier for you to face remote learning modality if you make a date planner organizing your schedule. So first we have two kinds of agendas. The first one is virtual, where you can put your notes and write your assignments online. Here we suggest Google Calendar, which is really complete. You can download the app in your cell phone or have directly in your computer through Google Apps, or both. They are synchronized, so the changes will be saved and you can keep it in your cell phone and your laptop. Also, we suggest WeNote app and Evernote app. And why not try to do your own planner on paper? Try to make it a personalized agenda. These might help you with motivation and enjoying your creativity and crafting part. Now, creating a work for a schedule is writing deadlines for the workshops you have. This will help you to remember the date of the delivery of the workshop. Also, in your calendar, write the day you are going to do your homework. This is important because this is the part that will make you feel organized and will let you time to do the activities you enjoy or to rest. So now we have some tips. For example, getting up early and work on your tasks in 2 hours intervals and rest. It is important to rest because when we are facing with computers and devices all day, this takes a lot of our energy away and we feel exhausted, and this can also make us feel anxious. So we can work every day from 6 to 7 hours and work the rest of the day. Also, it is important to talk about the environment. Make sure your workplace is clean and tidy. Remove all distracting elements. Work in a light place, and if possible, work in a comfortable place for your back. For example, at a desk with some chairs. Here we have an example with a virtual agenda. You can play with the colors. For example, the green one, on Sunday is the day we are going to do our homework, and on Wednesday is the day we're going to deliver it. So you can organize it however you want. This is the Google Calendar example. And finally, we have a personalized agenda example. Here you can see that crafting, coloring, and drawing might help you with anxiety.
Hello everyone, we are Christian and Federico, and in this video we're going to talk about our ideas to improve the teaching practice from virtuality. First, Federico will make a short introduction about the current situation, and then I will specify some important issues to take into account in the field of virtual education and its promotion.
The change in education modality has been transformed in an accelerated and poorly organized manner. In some cases, universities, colleges, and other institutions dedicated to education have been challenged by the issues involved in accommodating a contingency that was not foreseen to our context. With the sudden changes, universities and schools had to resort to technology as their main resource. Today, with the conditions imposed by nature, there is nothing left but to make a use of these tools and try to bring about a normalcy in the exercise of education as it was done in the classroom. With normalcy, we don't mean to bring the same dynamics and strategies that were present in the classroom, but to make a very dedicated connection so that a very natural transition can be made to online teaching, with strategies and dynamics in line with the space and the new characteristics of the learning process, that they essentially motivate participation and interest in the class, since the students are sitting in front of one of the biggest distractions considered by education. How can we make students really feel that they are in class moment in which they can learn something through a screen? In order to try to solve these conflicts of changing modalities, it is important to first understand the huge difference involved in teaching in one space or another. Each scenario has its own dynamics and its own rhythm of work that will determine the exercise and the results of the activities proposed by the teacher. It is important that the teacher understands this difference, and in order to be successful in their virtual classes, they must take into account the following steps.
A student who is in his virtual class doesn't ensure accurate knowledge, or probably is not paying attention. The teacher should try as much as possible to establish an interaction that involves visual contact through the screen. In this way, the student will feel more included in the class exercise. In turn, a verbal interaction helps and guides the student to feel and know that the teacher is there with him and he can help him in his process. Also, we think that participation activities are one of the most important elements to review virtual dynamics, since they can ensure the student's knowledge of socialized topics. The teacher has to find the appropriate tools, strategies, and moments so that the student can participate and generate a close and trustworthy space in which he can express his ideas as naturally and spontaneously as possible, so that the class exercise doesn't miss effect by the technological resources. Our third concern is evaluation and carrying out of activities, because those are some of the most complicated tasks to develop by virtual platforms. Conducting extensive and complicated workshops is not going to demonstrate the knowledge obtained by the student at all. So the evaluation activities must be designed so that the student can learn and not take more than the time established for the class. We also consider the unexpected change in circumstances. Individual tasks or assignments should be adapted to the conditions. That is to say, that now that the exercise of the classrooms changed into a virtual space, the assignments should be designed in some way that the student is not overfilled with online tasks. Because for those who have more than 3 classes in a day, must be completely exhaustive after several hours sitting on the screen, having to fulfill the academic responsibilities demand. Finally, we consider that us, as being aware of our political, social, and economic context, we must take into account the reduced access that some students have to computers or tablets that are essential when establishing a class in digital format. It is important to think about these situations during this emergency. Institutions in cooperation with the government must ensure that students have the necessary tools for an educational exercise for which they are paying.
Why recording online classes is a good strategy? Because they increase accessibility. Recordings dramatically increase the number of options that people have. When learners have more choices, they can more easily meet their learning needs. Lecture capture opens the door, making education more easily available to everyone. Better availability. Recording virtual sessions is an advantage for those students who have connection problems. Also, rewatching for comprehension. Some people need to hear information more than once for it to sink it in. Others get new information that recontextualize earlier material and need to go back and get everything to fit. Rather than slowing down the class, asking for repeats of covered material, lecture capture makes it easy for students to watch as many times as they need to. So, differentiated instruction will be improved by these recorded lectures because there are some who learn seeing pictures, slides, notes, and other visual aids to acquire knowledge. It's important that lectures include engaging image, graphs, charts, photos, and similar aids to help students understand concepts, lecture material that students visually learn. Creating lecture material rich with visuals will help the students follow along with the content as easily as if they were with teachers in the classroom. Instead of having just an audio recording of lecture material, including visuals allows students to put the context behind the recorded lecture. So the student habits of the visual learners is watching videos, make flashcards, use mini-maps, use charts and graphs, and using colors to highlight concepts. There are others who are more auditory. Their student habits as the visual are watching videos, listening to music, use songs to memorize, put things in their own words, or studying in quiet places. Also, recorded sessions will help kinesthetic learners because they learn by doing, so they can access to the video in other time different to the class and they can do the things that the lesson intend to them to do.
Hi, I'm Anna, and I'm gonna be talking about keeping time in mind, homework, and being conscious of different learning styles. So let's talk about homework. It's important to reflect on this because, as we can see, this independent work in these times is being extremely counterproductive because normally homework is seen as a burden by students. And if you add to that burden thought a pandemic, you're just creating yourself a recipe for disaster. Because students right now are not having time to be themselves, are not having time to be kids, they're just having time to be students, and that's not all they are. So the final thought this should give you is courses need to be designed for students to learn, yes, but also allow them to be kids, to be sons, to be athletes, to be gamers, to be whatever students want to be outside the classrooms. So another thing to think about and to reflect on virtual courses should be students being conscious of their learning style, because these courses are mostly based on independent work. And most students rely on what the teacher gives them in the class. But these virtual courses also have a part where you have to be responsible for your own learning process. And what happens when you don't understand that process, when you don't know how to fulfill this work you're asked? So we need to think about this. Like, how can a virtual course also encourage students to know how they work as learners? And finally, I want to give a few seconds to thinking about keeping time in mind. I think this is super important because it gives the teacher the opportunity again to see the student as more than just a student. Because while designing, if the teacher keeps time in mind, he says, okay, how do I design this for my student to learn, but also having time for himself, for the things outside the classroom, to not feel overwhelmed by the course. So the key to these virtual courses will be having the balance between taking enough time to make sure the student learns, but also giving a space for the student to be a person outside the classroom.
When it comes to face different circumstances to develop a regular class, teachers must be prepared for any kind of sudden change that courses may come across, which is probably the case right now, and technology became an essential tool for their learning process to keep going. Now, the virtual and in-person lessons have basically the same requirements and standards, like learning objectives, time management, even task development, which may only vary on the means or tools we have access to. But there are some differences we have to be careful to keep in mind when organizing lesson plans, because preparing for a virtual classroom session might be challenging in order to adapt regular classes to a totally different context. In addition to planning the lesson structure, teachers also need to adapt their ideas to the virtual environment, and that's why it's fundamental to be updated with the platforms available that can be used for the class. Having an idea of which may be more convenient for us to develop the whole course and the benefits or extra tools that may come handy allows teachers to be clearer on the limitations the virtual environment has. Starting with the most obvious features and moving down to those that are rarely used, the virtual classrooms offer a large variety of activities that are most likely inaccessible in the traditional classroom, and which will help a lot taking your lesson plans to the very top. It is also crucial to capture on the lesson plan the differences in each student, and this must also reflect the possible limitations they may encounter when dealing with sometimes awful internet connections or device limitations. When we help and encourage our students to do their best, paying attention to their situation, it is most helpful to provide them with a lesson that is based on their needs. The main focus of lesson plans may be the same, but always being prepared with a backup plan for virtual lessons helps us continue with the learning environment and process that our students really deserve.
Welcome back. It's me again, Dr. Barry. I just wanted to take a moment just to have a final word with everybody who watched this video as a final thought, final reflection after listening for an hour to the incredible ideas and the hard work of these young teachers. I don't think there is one teacher in the world whose life wasn't turned upside down as the result of COVID-19 and the pandemic. It happened to all of us at the higher education level, all the way to preschool teachers and everything in between. We all had to adjust, readapt, and right now we're all learning lessons in order to think of what we're going to do next month, next year, the following year, because kind of thinking right now, quoting that quote from Lord Corvallis in the movie The Patriot. At the end of the war, he says, everything has changed, everything will change. And we have to accept the fact that education has changed, that education will change, and that we all have to come together to work on that change and hopefully come up with a better educational model than we had. I feel confident about the future when I listen to the voices of these young teachers in their early 20s and the power of their voices and the hope for a better future. I will join that effort as a teacher educator, as a researcher, as an advocate. I will join their efforts. I'll be in the front line with them. I'll be in the front line in my classroom, the place where I belong. And I just want to end this video by inviting all the other teacher educators, researchers, scholars, activists around the world to rally, especially the ones who have a certain level of influence because of the publications or the research. We need to rally around these young teachers, and we need to help them, because as we help them, they're going to help us invent something better. That's the hope I'm leaving with at the end of this video. That is the hope I'm leaving with at the end of this very special edition of the Methods and Approaches for Digital Languages. I'm living with hope. I'm living with a renewed energy. I invite everybody to find their renewed energy, their renewed voice as we all move ahead. On behalf again of this wonderful group of young scholars, powerful teachers, incredible human beings, I'm just honored and humbled to have been their instructor for this semester. I'm humbled, honored, blessed to have been with them. And this goes to all the students I've had at the university for this past decade, almost decade. Thank you very much. Let's keep fighting, and as I always tell the students in this course, let's stay safe, let's stay connected, and let's stay together. Thank you.